Hey guys, welcome back to BasedMMA. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite UFC fighters currently. These are fighters that are currently in the UFC. And just making this list, guys, it was pretty hard because there's a lot of fighters in the UFC that I like, that I enjoy their fights, that, I follow their career closely. But for me, these top 5 that I chose. The reason I chose them were because these are the top 5 fighters that I am most interested in how their career plays out. Out of all 5 fighters in the UFC, these are the UFC fighters that I really want them to win, to become champion, to stay champion, and just to have the best career, guys. And every time these fighters lose, it just totally breaks my heart, guys. So I'm going to give some honorable mentions to some of the fighters that didn't make this list, but were close to making this list. Some of the honorable mentions were Sergey Pavlovich. This is a up and rising heavyweight. I think the guy's a really entertaining fighter. Obviously, he has a bunch of first round KOs, which is always entertaining, right? You always want early finishes and you want guys that are powerful and stuff like that. But I just think the guy, even outside the cage, even though he doesn't speak English, like I still find the guy pretty entertaining. And he just seems like a cool guy to hang around. So I had to put him in my honorable mentions. Arnold Allen, guys. This guy is a great fighter. I kind of like him because he kind of doesn't give you like a fighter vibe. He kind of looks like a nerd and stuff like that. So I don't know. I find Arnold Allen pretty interesting. Cyril Gahn, another fun guy that, I was pretty heartbroken when he got choked out by Jones in the first round. This is a pretty controversial one, and this guy used to be higher up on my favorite fighter list is Colby Covington, but lately with his inactivity and stuff like that, it's kind of made me like less of a fan of the guy, if I'm being honest. Like I don't like, yeah, I want him to win against Leon Edwards, but if he loses, like it's not gonna affect me as much, and I'm not really gonna care as much as I would have before. Um, another fighter I think is really underrated, Jan Blachowicz, Polish power. I'm a really big fan of the guy. I think the guy's really humble. I like the way the guy carries himself. I think he's a really excellent fighter, really entertaining striker. So I had to put him up there. My honorable mentions. Two honorable mentions left, and these guys are in the lightweight division. Benil Dariush. I like the guy. I like the guy outside the cage. I'm a Christian as well, so I like that he's a Christian. I support him, and I think the guy's a pretty high level lightweight, and I kind of do want him to get a title shot, even though like we'll talk about that later. And then the other fighter that is in my honorable mentions that honestly, like a couple months ago, I would not have put in the list is Islam Makhachev. I think the guy's really funny. I think he gets a lot of undeserved hate because a lot of people compare him to Khabib. And when the guy's a totally different guy, I think he's actually more likable than Khabib. So he made my honorable mentions, guys. But anyway, let's get to the top 5 fighters. Top 5 favorite fighters in the UFC, starting with number 5. And this is a fighter that is coming off a very devastating KO that absolutely broke my heart. Alex Pereira, guys. He's in my 5. I think the guy's super likable. I think he's an amazing kickboxer. And also, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, one of the reasons he's my favorite fighter is because I'm not a big fan of Izzy. Actually, I don't like Izzy at all. And he's 3-1 against Israel Adesanya, so that automatically puts him in my top 5. But besides all that, I just think the guy's really entertaining. He has like this confidence, this stone cold killer look about him. But you could still tell like he's kind of like a very humble guy, very down to earth guy, and I just love his walkouts, man. When he does that thing, I just absolutely love it. Gives me chills every time, and I just love Poatan, man. I'm sad that he got knocked out by Israel Adesanya, man. I'm mad that he got over Sellers and that he got flatline KO because I really thought he was gonna win that fight. But he didn't end up winning that fight. And obviously he's going to fight in July against Jan Blachowicz, who's also one of my favorite fighters. And I'm kind of scared for Pereira in that fight, guys. But I just think the guy's really entertaining, really good kickboxer. And I just think he's great for the UFC. And he's my number 5. Now, number 4, this is kind of a controversial one. I don't think this is a fighter that a lot of people are would have on their list. But personally, I've liked this guy a lot. I've been following him for a while, and that's Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is a very underrated striker. I think he's really underrated in the light heavyweight division. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I saw a bunch of people picking him against Glover Teixeira, and I was one of those few people that I was like, no, I think Jamal Hill's gonna get it done. I think he's young. I think, we underestimate him because he has a belly and he doesn't look in fight shape. He's not the most ripped fighter, but the guy's just like an athlete. He's like really naturally talented, and I'm really curious, and I want him to keep winning, and I really want him to cement himself as like a champion in the light heavyweight division. So I really hope he doesn't lose if he ends up fighting Adesanya, or if he ends up fighting Yuri Prohaska. Like, I hope he remains champ. And yeah, he's on my number 4. I find him really entertaining. I really like his interviews, and I think he's really underrated, and I really like him. I really like Jamal Hill, so he's at my number 4. At number 3, we have a woman MMA fighter, and this is a fighter that I rooted against a couple years ago, but now is actually one of my favorite female fighters, and that's Yang Weili, guys. Yang Weili is super likable. She's really entertaining. She's really powerful. She's actually really entertaining to watch. Really good striking. Has improved her grappling significantly. But the moment in her career where I became like a big fan of her was after she lost to Rose in that first fight. Like, her comeback, her attitude, like no excuses, just trying to improve and really like fix the holes in her game. Going to go train with Henry Cejudo. All that stuff, and just like the way she carried herself after like a very terrible loss that she lost in the first round against Rose Namajunas. Like, I thought she had won the second fight, Weili, but even though they didn't give her the decision, like, she still came back and she still said, like, I still want to be champion. And I just love that attitude, guys. And I just think like she's really entertaining, and I'm really excited to see who she fights next and how her career turns out. So I'm a really big fan of Yang Weili when I wasn't a couple years ago. So she makes my number 3. Now, for number 2 and 1, they kind of jump back and forth, but I think this is really who my top 2 are. At number 2, guys, I've got Alexander Volkanovski. I think the guy is one of the greatest fighters that the UFC has ever seen. I personally believe he's the greatest fighter in the UFC right now. I know the way he destroyed Holloway in that third fight was absolutely incredible. Like, nobody destroys Holloway like that. And the guy's just super skilled, and I find him really entertaining to watch. Like, I know he doesn't get a lot of finishes, but like, you just know the guy's super high level, super dedicated, and I love to watch him, and I really want him to continue being champion. I hope he doesn't lose against Yair Rodriguez, and I hope he ends up challenging for the lightweight belt again and ends up becoming double champ, because if he does that, I believe he cements himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time, in my opinion. I'm a really big fan of him, and I know a lot of people say like he's not the most entertaining fighter outside the cage, and he doesn't really talk that much trash, but I think the guy just carries himself with like this kind of, I think something that at least all my top 5 fighters have a little bit in common is that they do have this confidence about them, but they don't talk a lot of trash, but like they're also really down to earth. Like, they're really confident in their ability, and I just love the way they carry themselves. I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? So I have to put Alexander Volkanovski. I thought he arguably beat Islam Makhachev. In my opinion, I know a lot of people in the comments below are going to say he didn't win. I thought it was a very close fight. I think it could have gone either way, but watching it live, I definitely thought Volkanovski. And I was one of those people that was saying before that fight that I was like, don't sleep on Volkanovski, because everybody was saying, Islam Makhachev is going to destroy Volkanovski. He's not going to stand a chance. He's going to get choked in one round. And I was like, no, like, Volkanovski is a great fighter, and I think a lot of people are underestimating him, and they were underestimating his grappling, but more or less like his grit to win. The guy has grit. Like, one of the big moments that really made me a Volkanovski fan was in that Brian Ortega fight where I thought he was in trouble. I thought he was about to tap. He was in a really bad position against Brian Ortega, and the guy didn't tap and got out of it. Like, I was like, oh my god, dude, this guy's absolutely incredible. So Volkanovski is my number 2, guys. And my number 1, another Brazilian fighter has made the list. I feel like this is not a surprise to anybody. I feel like this is a lot of MMA fans' favorite fighter. Charles the Bronx Oliveira, guys. One of the greatest title reigns we've ever seen. Super entertaining. The guy's also super humble and confident, super likable. Even though the guy doesn't speak English, I think he's also one of the most skilled UFC fighters we've ever seen. His BJJ is dangerous, has good grappling. His striking is crisp and technical. He does have power. Obviously, he doesn't have a great chin, which is one of the reasons why it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick him to win a fight, especially against Beneil Dariush right now, because of his chin. But he's still one of my favorite fighters, guys. And all these 5 fighters, like, I want them to win. Like, out of all fighters in the UFC, if you told me, Alec, these 5 fighters that you pick, they're not gonna lose their next fights, I would pick all these 5 fighters. And I just want Charles Oliveira, guys, to get another title shot and to become champion again and then retire and cement himself as one of the greatest lightweights of all time. I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira. I was absolutely heartbroken when he lost to Islam Makhachev. And I just want to see him make a great comeback. He has a really hard opponent in front of him against Beneil Dariush. And I still haven't made my official prediction for that fight, guys. But yeah, Charles Oliveira is my favorite fighter right now in the UFC, guys. But let me know down in the comments below, who are your favorite UFC fighters, and let me know why. Like, why are they your favorite fighters? I know that a lot of my favorite fighters aren't necessarily guys that are like the most entertaining on the mic. They're not the guys that talk the most trash, but I just like the way they fight and the way they carry themselves. And even though they don't, like I said, they don't talk that much trash, I still find it entertaining to watch their interviews and stuff like that, guys. But thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe and like and share this video to your friends, guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one.